questions that we're going to do, and this is the interview with Mrs. Bettie Thompson, who's been really involved in the Bailey Drive Gateway Project and Parks with Purpose program for years.
Yeah, over 40, well, I go back 40 or 50 years for St. Ambrose.
So, oh, wow. Yeah. Are you originally from Raleigh?
Yes. I was born August 12th, 1939. And I was born on the campus of St. Augustine's University. It was called St. Augustine's College then, it's the university. I was born to the parents of Mr. and Mrs. James Brody. And that was August 12th, 1939.
Mm-hmm.
I came over here after I finished high school, Ligon High School.
You went to
But I came over here in 1960, and my aunt was showing her, new places in town, so she thought this was a good place. It was owned by Bruce Leitner's grandfather, Clarence Leitner. Clarence Leitner is Bruce Leitner's father.
Oh, okay.
But so anyway, it was. I found out the history of it was just a big farm, and it was owned by Clarence Leitner's grandfather. Father, I'm sorry, that was his father because that was Bruce's grandfather.
Right.
And so we looked around and everything. They had built houses, and most of the houses were empty. And when we came over, we looked at the houses and everything, and so we picked out. Me and my mother picked this one out, and decided we'd come over here. Me and my father, he was working, but we all came over here in 1960.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say, you mentioned that your aunt was the one who drove you all. What was your aunt's name, and what's your maiden name again?
My name is Bettie Jean Brody.
Okay, B-R-O-D-I-E.
Got it. Okay. That's my maiden name.
Mm-hmm.
And my father and mother were Mr. and Mrs. James E. Brody.
Okay, thanks.
And so then we bought, my father and all of us came up here, and he bought, we bought this house. At that time, it was just us and the lady across the street, Miss Morris, and she and her husband owned a store over near Shaw University.
Okay.
And at night, it would just be our lights and her lights on, because
wow,
the rest of the houses on this street were empty.
It's pretty dark.
Yeah, and most of them around here, and so later on, people began to move in, and we would welcome them to the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And I had one cousin that lives, the Lewises that live right behind. We found out they were our cousins later on. They lived behind us on Charles Street.
Mm-hmm.
But then my other cousins, later on, they moved up there on Boaz, the Hicks.
Okay.
And their names were, that was my mother's cousin. That was Roy, Mr. and Mrs. Roy Hicks.
Mm-hmm.
And they had, I forgot how many children they had, but anyway, they ran things over to the park, over Chambers Park.
Yes,
in charge of that, the concession stand and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So they ran there. And so it was Freddie and Roy Jr. Barbara, I went to school. She was, me and her were over at St. Aug together, alumni, years later on.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember all the others' names because they were smaller, old, younger children.
Right.
But anyway, so we were over here. So after I graduated from St. Aug, I went to Cleveland, Ohio. I married a baseball player.
Okay. So, and what year did you graduate from St. Aug?
1966.
Okay.
This is my scarf right here.
I see that.
So I'm a member of the Baha'i World Faith. Anyway, I had that's the headquarters in Haifa, Israel.
Oh, okay. Didn't realize that.
On Mount Carmel.
Mm-hmm.
And we were the first Baha'is in Raleigh.
I bet you were.
Yeah, we were the first Baha'i family. Yeah, and that was in the 50s. I mean, that was before integration or anything started.
Yeah, yeah.
And my mother would have all these little kids coming over to the house playing and stuff. And at 12 o'clock, we had to go in and say prayers.
Yeah.
And they said, well, we'll go in with you. So they came in with us and everything.
Yeah.
And my mother had a dream. I was baptized at Martin Street Baptist Church. But she had a dream that all of us were going to be in something that was international later on. And so we talked to the Reverend Johnson, and he said, well, okay, and my mother was a healer. I mean, she, would lay hands on people and pray. And a lot of people don't know about things like that, but she, and I was like the secretary, because people be calling, asking me where was my mother, that she come and pray for them. And she gave them some healing water. And long story about my mother and father. But my grandfather was a preacher, Reverend Branch.
Yes, okay.
And he lived near St. Aug. And so he was over at Martin, Martin Street Baptist Church.
Baptist Church, okay.
And he and Reverend Paul Johnson were good friends. He would be in the pulpit and stuff.
Okay.
So I grew up that way. And there were Baha'is in Cleveland. Well, there were Baha'is all over the world, all over every state. But the main thing is Haifa, Israel.
Okay.
We have a temple. It's called a magical Ashgar, but I say church because people don't understand it, that long word.
So, yeah.
But it's international, and it's been that way for years and stuff.
Okay. So one of the things I want to find out, when you came back to Raleigh, and like what year was that, and did you come back directly to Rochester Heights?
Yeah, well, I had lived here most of my life, like I had said, and because I moved here in 1960.
Right.
But then graduated from all that, and then I came back here. My husband, he died. He's buried in Bedford, Ohio.
Okay.
He worked when I was up there. He worked at Ford Motor Company, and I worked at Cleveland City School System. So I came back down here, and my parents, they got sick. And that's a long story, 10 to 15 years, whatever. So I was here waiting, and both of them were sick at the same time almost. So that's a long story about them. And I came back down here, and so then, and my cousins, they were still up there on Boaz, the
okay, right.
And it was them and the Peoples, and Miss Peoples lived on that corner up there on Callaway and Boaz.
Right.
Yeah. There were other Hickses, I can't remember that lady's name, but she was some kin to the Hicks. She wasn't a Hicks, but she married in the family. She was some kin.
I know Carrie Hicks. Carrie Hicks married the fourth, Roy Hicks, the fourth. But she moved here later though. So I think
that was 1970.
Yeah. So that's another
that was
one.
Later on. And then when the Coleman was on the corner up there. Her daddy was she belongs to, I forgot that little girl's name. She was a little girl. She's much younger than me, but anyway, she's bigger and taller and everybody's, but anyway, she went to St. Ambrose, and I would go to St. Ambrose because that was like our center then. A lot of people, they didn't go, but my family, my mother and I, we would go to meetings around there.
Yeah.
And it was like an advisory board that I had been on. For
like the
Rochester
Citizens Advisory.
And all that.
Yeah, the Citizens Advisory.
The Citizen Advisory.
Right.
Yeah. So I was on that much later on, years later.
Okay.
But this was my first time going, around there and being. That was 40 years ago, whatever. But anyway, long time ago, and it was Father Callaway was there then, I think, and he had taught at St. Aug too.
Okay.
But he was there, and he would invite people to come over and we discuss community affairs. He would have the members of the city council, then the police department would come over, and we would tell them, whatever was going. At that time, I mean, this neighborhood's always been nice and quiet and peaceful and everything, but we wanted to stay that way.
Right.
So we had meetings and everything.
Right.
And discussed the fairs, what was going on.
So that's kind of like, I understand the Citizens Advisory Council
Yeah, it was like
started
that.
in the mid-70s, and
But
so this is kind of like around that time when neighborhoods were starting to get together and look
it
at
was
just the
nobody
issues.
but our neighborhood at
That was
time.
doing it.
It was just Rochester Heights, because I would just go around the corner
Yeah,
to St. Ambrose.
right,
And at
right.
that time, it wasn't other neighborhoods
That were
involved.
doing it, yeah.
It was just us, and he was trying to get everybody, Father Calloway,
Yeah.
to come to those meetings. Now later on, that was much later,
Yeah.
30 years, whatever. Well, they can tell you when that started, that advisory up there on Sanford Road.
Right, right,
And I would
right.
go to those meetings, but that was so many
Much
years
later. Yeah.
later, when everybody, when other
Neighborhoods
communities
and
were
all.
built. They weren't
Okay.
even built in the 50s and 60s. Well, the 50s, they weren't even built then, up there.
Mhm.
So that's why this is Hatley Road, started down at Bailey,
Yeah.
and it goes all the way through Biltmore Hills.
Mhm.
But the numbers are different. When you cross Callaway, it
Mhm.
starts at 600. And somebody was saying, well, if this is one whole section, why? But it's not.
Mhm.
Rochester Heights is a historical section,
Right.
because they built that first from Clarence Liner's
Mhm.
grandfather's farm, all this. And developers came and did,
Mhm.
and he sold that and he got money and they built this.
Right.
Then later on, I forgot how many years it was before they built Biltmore Hills.
Okay.
And we watched them build Biltmore Hills. So when they started up there past Callaway, they started with the number 612, I believe, something like
Okay.
that. So that's why it's the same street that goes all the way
Yeah.
through to Crosslink, but it started down here on Bailey and Whitcomb.
Okay.
So that's the history of that.
So when you came back and you did have some cousins that were in the area, what were some of the your favorite? I mean, other than you said it was a nice neighborhood. What were some of the favorite things you did? I mean, besides visiting, you're probably working or caring for your parents, and then.
Mhm.
But were there neighborhood gatherings other than like meeting at St. Ambrose to talk about the neighborhood? Any sort of social gatherings?
Well, we had a lot of the Baha'i faith.
Okay.
Being a member of the first family of the Baha'i faith, and a lot of people would come from California. I remember we had a block party,
Mm-hmm.
and they were on their way to Wilmette, Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm sorry. They were on their way to this,
Oh, okay. All right.
to our temple in Wilmette, Illinois.
Oh, okay.
But they stopped, the youth group stopped through here,
Yeah.
and they were there were dancers and
Mhm.
poets and different things. So they wanted to have something. So we said okay. So I know when I was in Cleveland, we had block parties, and we
Okay.
had a president, secretary, treasurer, and all of that.
Mhm.
So I called the police department and say, well, can we have a block party? That somebody block off down there and block off at Callaway.
Yeah.
And then, and at that time, the people from, from Biltmore Hills and everywhere, they could come to it,
Mm-hmm.
And they were professional dancers. They were on this big bus, and it had California, and
Right.
And so
And the city let you have the block party then.
they didn't even know what a block party was.
So-
I said, well, I called the police department. I said, well, cause we could have this. I want to get clearance. And they said, what? Well, what did you say? What are you talking about? I said, never mind. I said, but thank you anyway. I
Okay.
tried to describe what it was like. It was a religious group that was having it. But everybody could come, everybody's
Yeah,
invited.
yeah.
All our neighbors invited.
Okay. Yeah.
And so, and then we went up to Biltmore Hills later on. They gave them dinner, dinner or something up there.
Yeah.
So anyway, I asked one of my friends. His father was in horticulture at North Carolina State.
Mm-hmm.
He was the professor of horticulture, and his name was Barrett, Mr. Barrett. But anyway, I asked his son if he could go down there and tell the people go around. And then I had somebody else to block off up there. And then the bus was right there, and they hooked up everything,
Yeah.
and everybody came from Biltmore Hills and everything.
So you all just
And we
you
had an
made your-
international
you made your own block party.
block party.
So-
And we were always having things here, and people inviting people to come over and stuff.
Yeah.
And what else did we have? We had picnics, neighborhood picnics. The people across the street They would
Mhm.
invite us over, and we would go over there. Um, I'm sure the people up there on Boys had different things too.
Yeah.
And at that time, I did some subbing at the school, Fuller School, because I couldn't work full time because my
Parents were ill. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would go up there and work, sub up there at Fuller School.
Yeah.
And let's see, what else did we do?
So, and at that time, there were still homes on both sides of Bailey Drive. There were homes on the other side.
On Bailey.
Yeah, on Bailey, down a couple blocks.
Yeah,
the
Bailey
homes.
always had on one side, when you come off the Garner Road, on the right side
Yeah.
coming in, there are houses all the way down. Yeah.
Right.
That's Rochester Heights. All of
Yeah,
this.
and they have homes all the way down
All the
around the
way around
corner,
the
around
corner.
Boaz.
Yeah.
And so, but were there homes on the other side?
On the other
at
side
one
is
time?
the branch. It's where
The
all
creek.
those trees in the creek.
Right, so that's
It's-
always been there. There weren't homes
there's
removed
no
from there.
houses ever
So,
down there.
did you all ever use that space? Did the neighborhood ever use that space
No,
for
we couldn't
anything?
because it was just trees and bushes.
Just, it's just okay.
And one day, a friend of mine, years ago, I forgot what year that was. We went over. I don't know if I should tell this on here or not, but I was trying to get a minority scholarship to
Mhm.
work on my master's at State.
Yeah.
Well, and ended up somebody else got the scholarship that wasn't a minority. Somebody told me that, and it was a reputable person. So I said, well, okay,
Oh, okay.
Well, anyway, that's what happened with the scholarship then. And but while I was over there, I looked at I went to some office and they said that we have something called a wetland. It's on the drawing board, and it's going to be in Rochester Heights. And of course, this is my neighborhood, so I wanted to see it.
Yeah.
So they showed it to me, and it was the same thing that's up there on the corner of Peterson now.
Now.
But
yeah.
it was on the drawing board then. They hadn't even built anything.
Oh, okay.
And so I thought, okay, this is nice, And so years later, they finally built up there on
The
Peterson.
center there.
Yeah.
Okay. You
But I
saw
saw
it when it was just in the
on the
drawing
drawing board.
form.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And
so in terms of like your block, I mean the area that you know the best here and
Boaz
Bill
and all
and
around
Boaz, yeah.
St.
So in
Ambrose.
the blocks that are right here, what have you seen? What has changed over the years? What are the most significant change have you seen?
well, like I said, I've been going to the meetings forever, for 40 years when it started around up there,
Mhm.
before it got to be up there on Sanford Road. We at one time we had pink lights. We had nice, cozy type lights, right here on street lights,
Oh, okay.
and it was nice. And then after a while, some things started happening. Some people started moving in, and I had a request that we take those lights down and put some real bright lights out there, so we could see, see everything that's going on in our community. And so the city did that. And I think that was through the help of A.J. Turner. He lived down there in the corner. I don't know, you remember him?
No, but he was the city
He was
council.
city council
Okay.
person. And he would go to the meetings up there at St. Ambrose too.
Mm-hmm.
And I would go. Just certain people would go. It wasn't that many. I mean, people had moved in around here,
Yeah.
like they are now, but you don't see, many people coming to the meetings.
That's everywhere.
You can't,
Unfortunately.
And so Mr. Turner, he would come sometimes, his wife.
Yeah.
Mr. What's his name? He's on Charles Street. He used to be the principal of a school not too far from here, off of Peterson.
Okay.
Can't think of his name. He lived on Charles Street though, he and his wife. And he was the principal. They would go sometime to the
Uh-huh.
meetings and everything.
So so the lights that was a successful story of sort of asking and getting a change.
Yeah, and then
And-
we asked for a good bus route to come through here.
Okay, so you
with
asked for
State
that.
Street.
Mm-hmm.
So we got the State Street bus coming through.
Okay.
And one time it came off the Garner Road, turned on Bailey, and it came right by our house. Turn right there, and it
Yeah.
would start down here, Hatley Road. It would go all the way past our house, and sometimes my parents, before they got real sick, if it wasn't anybody on the bus driver knew us so well, he would stop right there and they'd get on.
Yeah.
And Dad, if he didn't want to drive a car or something, we get on and go all the way downtown.
Yeah.
And then one time we could go stay on that same bus and go all the way to Crabtree Valley. And then
Oh, my
after a while,
goodness.
after a while, somebody changed that up, and so we had to get on a different bus after get downtown. And so we would go over there and get our exercise, and Mom and Dad got their exercise and everything before they got real sick.
Yeah.
And stuff. But that bus route, that was good, because if we didn't want to drive our car, which Dad would do most of the time, I have had about 5 different cars, you know. Long story. I had one we drove to, my daddy drove to Philadelphia. It was Washington, D.C. and Philadelphia. See my people up there. But that bus route, that was good, and they would come through here and go all the way through Biltmore Hills.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
People that didn't want to drive, they just get on and go head on downtown to shop and come on back.
Nice to have that option.
Yeah, that was very nice.
Yeah.
But somebody said something other, and then they changed it. So now, even the older people be saying, well, I wonder why it didn't come through here.
Yeah.
I said, I don't know, but I found out somebody had it changed, called down or something. But now it goes straight up the Old Garner Road, past the cemetery. There's nobody there. And then it stops up there by what used to be an A&P store, but it's they have some other things in there now. And it stops on the side of the road. People wait on the side of the road and catch the bus. But that's not beneficiary to us, because all these older people,
it's a pretty far walk.
Yeah, they don't want to walk from here all the way up there to catch a bus.
Yeah.
You know.
No, I understand.
And I'm 80 years old, and I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Now, back in the day, we could. That's fine.
Yeah.
But that bus helped a whole lot. State Street bus with. So
sure.
that was something that was.
So
very nice.
so if in terms of like any challenges the neighborhood faces, if money were no object, because it's always politics and money, and you have to sort of work through things. But if money were no object, what would you like to see done here in Rochester Heights? I mean, just in any particular project or effort made.
Well, I would like to see that bus come back, because the older people have asked me about that. Some of them, they go to different other churches, but I visit, a lot of people from. And they were saying if it was a bus, they could, if this people didn't have time at their age to take them places, they could get on there and just go head on. I think it's free bus rides now for senior citizens.
Oh, it probably is. Yeah.
So that would help out. All up here and then to Biltmore and
and in terms of the the Bailey Drive Gateway space down the road, is there any particular part of that you are excited about, or that you really would like to see happen first?
Well, as I had said in many meetings, and I still, I don't say it all the time, but I was talking about the arts things for a local. My major was elementary education. Well, it was music, because I played for different churches, and I got Stevenson Music Company in Oberlin. Out in Oberlin, they gave me free music lessons.
Okay.
On the organ, and I played for the church. I used to belong to Martin Street, but then I'm behind now. But I used to play at that Young's Chapel across from the motor vehicles department. It was called Young's Chapel. It's called Young's Missionary, something new. But they gave me. I got lessons from since the church was buying the organ. Gave me lessons over there in Oberlin, and so. But anyway, as far as the arts thing is concerned, my major in college was elementary ed, because they've asked me to put my art and music together.
Okay.
And my advisor did, and then so when I go to the meetings, I asked about put some type of something. I don't know. Maybe you can help me on that about for local artists
Mm-hmm.
because it's some good artists around here, and I'm sure there are younger people, but they don't have a chance,
Right.
to display. Now I went downtown to Art Explorers a long time ago when they first opened it up.
Mm-hmm.
What street is that on? Not Hargett Street.
Is it on Is it on
Davie
and,
Street, I
and
believe.
Blunt or so around there?
Yeah, and I believe that's Davie Street. It was on then,
Mm-hmm.
and so they had different and had some nice artwork in there for local artists, but I don't see any now. The
Mhm.
kids don't have an outlet for their artwork.
Yeah.
I mean, they have some very good artists.
Yeah. Well, to fill you in, I know that
So
the project designers are getting ready to do a call for artists,
okay.
and the Parks with Purpose program do a call for artists to incorporate like these stories and the neighborhood stories, possibly into some sort of art installation. So the first thing is to put a call out there. So if you do run into anybody or know anybody, let them know to contact me, and I'll pass that on to Design Workshop. And so that's something that'll be happening over the next couple of months, is trying to round up some candidates that want to show their art and look at what their proposals.
Oh, well, that's good.
Their proposals
But
are.
I have been saying that for years and years, but it didn't fell on deaf ears, I guess. So I'm glad you all are working
Trying
with
to make
that
stuff
now.
finally
Trying to
happen.
finally come to pass. But that was my project.
Okay.
That's what I have always been talking about.
All right. Bringing in
Because
the local artists.
Because I'm one of the local artists because that's my manner.
Your wish list.
My wish list is, which I've been talking about a long time, but the beautification of the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed there's a what you call it? It's the flowers that azaleas festival, and azaleas that I've seen on TV for years. That different organizations can get those free. And individuals can't go and do it, but organizations can.
Okay.
And have them planted in different places, So I would like to have some planted in my yard and set an example. And then have the other, and I'm sure Pam, a lot of people that around here, we take care of our yards.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I'm sure that they would like to see the beautification of the neighborhood. Well, I worked in a florist over by St. Aug, but I don't know the name of all the flowers, but I know that they do give away those to organizations.
Okay.
And if we could get have flowers and just beautify this neighborhood, that would be great. And then maybe other neighborhoods would catch on and they could do whatever they do in their neighborhood,
Right.
But this is what I would like to see for our neighborhood.
Okay.
Because we're doing a good job on keeping the grasses cut and everything like that, but it would look beautiful just to see, that the azaleas in every yard, and whatever flowers that flower bushes that what you call it annual, they go from spring to at least fall.
Yeah, like the annuals. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
So, yeah.
And then that would be beautiful all summer, because in the wintertime you can't have that anyway.
Yeah. So, but a beautification program for the neighborhood, that'd be something that you'd like to see. That'd be on your wish list.
Bushes, they're different. I have some magazines that I can order things, but this would be something that as a organization you can get done.
Right, and more of a coordinated.
Yeah, easier than one person trying to say something, It's better when you have a group of people.
Okay,
putting that in.
That's a great idea.
Well, I'm just so thankful that you were here, and that Linda and Christy, she comes and pick me up and take me to some meetings.
Oh,
and she's been doing that, and I'm thankful for people like you all that are really listening and paying attention to to the neighbor who